Hi Tim, my name is Manish, and a good introduction for me would be a Walt Disney of the internet, albeit a budding one, currently in shape of a rooftop startup. Like in the US you have garage startups, we in India have rooftop startups, which are like a lot leaner in terms of resources than the ones that you find in the Bay of California, but a lot more desperate in stealing survival in a predatory world. Given the crunch, given the markets that we have, the sutures to introduce technology in order to remove disorders in transactions, we do come around as genuinely efficient. Even out-of-box miracles on many occasions. And talking about us, we are an outcome of the same processes of experiments with human creativity, with a goal to create new forums and new professions. Imbibing the same values of eliminating disorders from human transactions to create new alignments of peace, safety, ease, and prosperity. Technology is the obvious enabler, so we carry the same genes. Say, if Steve Jobs was a father, we would be first cousins. In referential context, what Pixar Studios was to the Apple of 1997, we would be to the Apple of 2021. An immediate precursor and a bouquet of lessons of all that has to transpire in the near future. The lead up to the new Apple store, the new store in the store of the age of big data and artificial intelligence. Content backgrounds will give us an extra advantage to lay the larger wireframes. The larger extra advantage is that it gives the grounds to get into human transactions, activities, vocations, and into life, or all those things that make life happen. Provides opportunity to create much wider canvas with a holistic, integrated design. And why we exist? Because the iPod, the iMac, the iPhone, and the iWatch has not been able to connect all the dots that Steve had laid himself. Not saying this from the lines of efficiency or anything of those sorts that indicates of belittling, but yes, there has been lots of lacunae, especially after the demise of Steve. You have lost on lots of fundamentals. So this is all from a perspective of a younger sibling from the same family, from the other way around. On lacunae where we deviated from carrying our own legacy, and on steps to be back again. I'll tell you how it began. So in India, we had a stellar technocrat, a breakthrough guy for India, Devang Mehta. That hero of the problem Y2K, he had a huge role to play in digitalizing the world. In the light of Y2K, the transition from devices to cloud and faster resurrection post the recession of 2008, the less banking disasters that we had, he was a key player in that transition. I guess you must be knowing about him as well. He died early, short of 40 in 2001, and he wanted to make films, his kind of films. And I got into completing that. And that's how I got introduced to writing and technology, and thus the new Walt Disney of the internet. And now coming up to you to knit both the worlds together. So do give us a patient and a fair hearing. I'm coming up late. I should have come by the summer of 2016. And I see that you have got hit hard. You've lost 500 billions almost in the last 2 years. I actually once sought to catch up with you when you were here in India at the IPL grounds. But the problem was, if I did, I'd have become famous, which I didn't want then. And good for you. I ended up planning. I got your blueprint. The 500 billions that Apple lost in the last 2 years, I plan to get you back by the autumn of 2019. Say October 31st, 2019, provided you're dear to me. And by the December of 2020, we should be acing the $1.5 trillion mark, which sums up to 800 billions of productivity in less than 2 years. And add to this, the US is also reeling with $1.5 trillion of debts of student loans. Even before Apple or Amazon or Microsoft could ace the $1 trillion market cap, even before the combination of Apple or Google the student loans of US in excess of $1.5 trillion, accumulating up to be the world's biggest NPAs. We could help in solving this mess as well. In fact, the whole world is reeling from the same syndrome, isn't it? Global debts make for 2.5x the global GDP. From Canada to the far west to New Zealand in the far east, as many as 68 nations cash-strapped completely, forced to offer citizenship or residency against investment, citizenship and passports on sale. And you do not disagree that all of this exists only because the humans are dumb. Nobody except for Edison knew what commodity or device the money was. What was a networking device? They made it a discriminating device. What was a resolution device? They made it a disrupting device. And now you have a disconnected, fragmented economies which are also ill-informed. Good for us, however. Had this not been the case, we would never have had this opportunity to come around as so great. It has been a good 70 years that the world was so vulnerable. And so, here are we outlining the ways to solve, to inject computing into human lives and build them out. So let's begin this with this 800 billion chunk. $800 billion in less than 2 years. $800 billion means $120 per capita. So, $120 overhead for computing. Is it large? Not as large as it sounds. And then, it's about Apple. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Personal computing is a need, right? Daily essential consumable, as good as a table salt. Every life born requires some dosage of computing since the moment born, irrespective of plant, animal, or human. As long as you want corrective actions in life, on earth, as long as you need preventive actions, you need computing, personal computing. And I tell you what, had the humans not learned counting before the invention of zero, this verb called counting would have never been termed counting itself. That was always computing. And this element, personal computing, would also have not been personal computing. This would have been termed as key account computing, the point where the humans went wrong, and the reason and the mother cause of all disasters that we see. Data is as necessary as food or air. What is food to growth? Data is to care. And add to that, this is the age of data. Fuel is not the oil anymore. Lubricant is not the oil. Trigger not the oil. Fuel is the data. Lubricant the data. And trigger also the data. So much that even the humans are not humans anymore. They are not humans. They are marketplaces. Clean, pollution-free human activities that the earth needs, it's always going to be data. Sustainable life means data. Or cut the crap. Life itself means data. Intelligence record the data. Beggars throw the data. When Indians were intelligent, they recorded Vedas, the sea of data, organized data. So it's not that it's the new sunrise sector. It's only now that the humans have evolved enough to process and apply data on intelligent and fluid machines. Computers the weapon, personal computing the practice. So, expense overheads for computing $120 per life. How huge is that? And then, again, we are talking about Apple, the elite carrier of computing. As long as it's computing, at least as long as it's personal computing, it has got to be Apple. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Computer, it feeds information, food for brains. And look at the logo, a half-beaten apple, world's first logo in motion. One chunk in mouth and the rest in process for consumption. It was to convey something. There was some design. Does that tell you now why the Steve Duo's computer was called Apple? And can you guess now why Steve Wozniak's long unfulfilled wish is that if Apple and Google were together, he would die happy? It was a computer. Devices to organize your knowledge, devices to document, devices to process and transmit. They're not computers. They're knowledge trucks, information logistics. The personal computer was the first container, and then came the handles, the minivans, and then the clouds, the forklifts and cranes. You don't make computers. You make apparatuses of information logistics. And more than this, computing has even larger premise. Computers function as the host of transactions, the forum where transactions meet transactions, the forum where professions meet professions. They work up as a thalamus to the world's productivities. Have you ever known about thalamus? Thalamus is the chamber or the landing platform where a fruit or flower or apparatus which produces new results rests. Whether it's the thalamus of your brains or flower or whatever, it is the hosting platform of life and activities in future. The mother holding device. And that was computer. The thalamus to transactions, knowledge and information. And guess what? Apple, the edible part of the fruit apple, that is also a thalamus. Biologically, apple is not a true fruit. It's a thalamus. This was also one of the reasons why the fruit chosen was apple. The thalamus of human creativities and transactions. The fruit of human productivities. The one which you have every day to keep the doctor away. This was the design. And this was the design where we are faltering now. Design is not the way it looks. Design is the way it works. Steve Jobs reiterated this every day, isn't it? In the 1980s, when the humans didn't know what this device was to do in their individual lives, this device and its seeds to empower these mortal humans, Apple, the thalamus, that is how it was meant to be. That was the design. Today, your pain statement is that they don't buy Apple, they don't upgrade, and they don't repeat. And you are not being able to get them to come to this thalamus. Or that thalamus is falling short of the fruits that they need today. Let me show you how it works out. Thalamus, flower, insect pollination, fruit, seeds, more thalamus, more flowers, more insects, bumper crop, bumper farms, healthy population. This was a shift, and this is the shift that is not happening. Is it? You're missing upon the basic design that the Apple was designed on. Actually, in technical terms, beyond the iPhone, after the demise of Steve Jobs, we have not made any other line of computers pushing into individual lives. If you drill down, you'll find you're missing upon the basic design that Apple was designed on. Actually, in technical terms, beyond the iPhone, after the demise of Steve Jobs, you have not had any major line of computing pushing into lives. Even for the watch, it took more than 4 years to open the frontiers. Typically, Apple has some signature way. It introduces a paradigm shift in human ways in the area introduced. Say, the iMac, connected computers, frontiers opened for e-commerce and third-party applications, and easy, holistic personal computing for lesser mortals. The Apple Store, store-in-store format, that was a paradigm shift in modern trade, introduced the concept of hypermart, which was entirely alien to humans. Frontier opened for computer peripherals, computer-assisted computer goods, computer-assisted applications, and then came the iPod, music cloud, freedom from piracy, and authentic platform for sale of creativity. That was you could put it down as the world's first cryptocurrency as well, if you were to in analogy. And then the iPhone, App Store, where professions meet professions. Floodgate open for cloud computing. At every node, At every line, you'd find new frontiers open, paradigm shift in lifestyle and processes of the world, new alignment in human transactions, new wave of human empowerment, built for a purpose, built to spread the thalamus. Let's see for the watch, where does it go? The same for the watch. Series 1, nothing. Series 2, nothing. Series 3, again nothing. After 4 years, Series 4, a small tunnel opening for preventive healthcare in the end. The electrical heart sensor came to be one channel opening for the opportunities, opening finally in direction of integrated healthcare. Potential for integrating healthcare as a lifestyle. The end finally. And that tells us some story. That the Apple Watch didn't come with a well-designed purpose in an initial phase. That it was only catching up with times of the world. That Apple got a watch not because it was innovating, but because everyone in the world was getting an electronic watch, which they thought they were smart. Unfortunately, it was only the culture of Apple that some breakthrough salvation did happen in the end. It was not breakthrough since the inception. It should have had a medical cloud, should have had a medicine profile for the user, should have had a standalone marketplace dedicated to the iWatch, majorly ruled by healthcare. And I guess you needed some good collaboration as well. Maybe though a personal opinion, however, the iWatch ought to have been a lifestyle keeper for the user. In fact, an iWatch should have had made me as good as James Bond. If it doesn't equip me like James Bond, why at all should I mortgage my kidneys for that? Anyways, now that I'm here, you need not worry. You ought to have a health tech ecosystem. Let's call it HealthPort. The lifestyle will be plug and play now. And I have got you a blueprint ready in context to that. And you know what? You've also gone wrong with Siri. The same wrong committed once again. The same as the one with iWatch. It is a virtual assistant, not that empowers the user, but a virtual assistant just for sale because Amazon and Google have one each. And each of them, except for some goodness of Apple, they're all going the opposite way. What should they have been? And luckily for you, once again, only for my loyalty to Steve Jobs, because he was loyal to my guy, Subhashan was saving you again. There is one mascot of works in progress, Start Up Kumar from India. Have you heard about it? There are some posters on my website, which is www.thesaneobserver.com. Go to the Instagram page. You'll get to know what you are missing on Siri. The problem with Siri is that it ought to have been an articulating machine. Instead, each of you, Alexa or Google or even Sophia, the mascot of artificial intelligence of Saudi Arabia, you're all a dictating machine. More than a virtual assistant, it has to be a creativity bank, which they are not. Say, in mathematical terms, user plus Siri makes it Siri plus user. What it should have been, user plus Siri equaling the fundamental expertise of Siri plus imaginative application of the user. Better if it could have had a simulator interface, and the voice of it should have always been of a kid not more than 12 years. An energetic kid who is aware of the world and assists the user with innocence. A sinless companion for life, isn't it? So, you need not worry on this count as well. It's already solved now. You need a big data ecosystem for this, for which is already there, thesaneobserver.com. That's why it was made. Go through the About section of the website. You'll come to know, and I hope you're not taking this as if I'm selling you something. The act is building onto it and not selling. So now, let's go to the dirty business of retailing. I want to tell you, about the principles and granularities of diligence that this massive thalamus of Apple was built. Why are they not buying Apple anymore? Is it that they are not buying Apple, or has the computing world itself stagnated? Or what wrong? Is the entity called computing reaching into all those hands that it never did? Are the transactions of the world riding onto computers or not? All the answers to stagnancy lie in these four questions. And the answer is that the world is already in the age of data. Computers and their derivatives are leapfrogging on day-to-day basis, quite set to match the capacities of supercomputers, which are the living bodies themselves. In terms of coding or encryption or data transmission, we are closer in capacities to the speed of DNA. Data transfer matching up to the transfer capacities of nerve impulses. Almost all transactions, except for frauds and crimes and terrorism, across the world rides on computers only. Payments might be in hard cash, but the billing on more than 90% occasions are computer generated. In fact, they have now even have apps to slot when to have sex to get pregnant. So, computing is already pushing into every walk of life, very much riding on personal computing itself. While Microsoft has gone to become the master wholesaler of computing, Apple and Google are the only two retailers. Everyone else an intermediary, including Amazon. Then, why the thalamus of Apple is lagging behind? Why the repeat of 1995? Is it in hardware? Or is it in the ecosystem? Or is it in the people? For instance, the key person that you have missed after Steve Jobs is Scott Forstall. I wonder who fired him and why. iWatch and Siri would have been different. You didn't just lose your best product guy, you also lost 5 precious years stalling your own growth. To distill that, one of the major drivers of this recession is PC sales, which went down since 2010. But it didn't go downhill in 2010. It began the day NASA announced partnership with M2MI Corps. October 11, 2006. Android and iPhone were not even born. Google Cloud was just in the 90s. Gmail was in white only. Do you remember that day? Alec Baldwin and Tina Fey were having a premiere night of their sitcom 30 Rock that day. And the white paper of App Store was drafted then. If I'm not wrong, or am I? App Store, Google Play Store, iPhone, Android, they were all born out of that. That PC sales will go down, Microsoft will never go deep into mobiles, and that Microsoft will get rid of the PC wares that was scripted then. All of what is happening today isn't a surprise. The day the machine learning became applicative, the need of the bulky PC had to go down. And the key reason why you have not your dots connected is the absence of one and only Scott Forstall. And to be really honest, I might well fill in for Steve Jobs. But knowing the whole world, I found none who could do that for Forstall. How on earth could you fire the chief architect of iOS? And why this has happened, I feel, because you have been an operations guy. So let me take you to the science of retailing. That retailing is all about depth and width of assortment in your offerings. That must not be any new revelation for you. But what you have failed to acknowledge is the fact that retailing is always a war. And you win wars only after your rivals have lost it out completely. An efficient war is not being at war at all. And the most efficient of them is driving the future. You inventing the future before the future dawns on you. Retailing, it's not stocking products. Retailing is stocking the customers. Being a customer magnet from where products and merchandise of the world find a tail for you. A tail. It always originates from a backbone. Being a retailer is being a backbone, not the length of the tail. As Apple, you're not a computer or a hardware manufacturer. The Apple Store was never Apple retail. Apple Store always meant Apple plus ecosystem hosting the fruits of Silicon Valley. Same principle had to be replicated in each of the products. Unfortunately for you, Silicon Valley itself has receded in the terms of growth rate in recent times, and hence your decline. The real challenge for you is to have another Silicon Valley, a better Silicon Valley, a global hub of solutions to global hub of problems, the hubs of solutions for future problems of humans. And as an organization, your quest is to empower humans and not counting the numbers feeding into your balance sheet. As the head of Apple, you need to open floodgates of room of computing into human lives and transactions, putting those ports where computing could make it easy, and then craft devices for them. As for the blueprint, I'm attaching your presentation. One part of it is building a solution valley, the new extension of Silicon Valley in facility terms. I have eyed in the mountains of India, from Srinagar to Itanagar, from Sahyadri to Malabar, and from Bhubaneswar to Madurai. It makes for over 9,000 kilometers and almost 1.3 million square kilometers. Very conspicuously, this also serves as the best balance of power for the Asia Pacific. And I have called this vision as a solution valley. For Siri, here's a Start Up Kumar, a mascot of works in progress, because all measurement of human development lie in the measure of works in progress. For the big data thalamus needed, we have a Sane observer, and also the garage of Apple needs a new computer, a holistic notebook which replaces pen and paper entirely, less bulkier than a laptop and not dull like a tablet, a wider scope of input and output including utility printing, and having a lot more range in cloud capacities. For healthcare extension, the new ecosystem, HealthPort. All of this in a rooftop startup. And that's all from me. My name is Manish, and I have a life plan. If Steve Jobs was the Steve who had Jobs in his name, Manish is the Manoranjan who has Manish in his name. Manish stands for knowledge, application of brains. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Let's build that apple. I'm here, and I come at $200 million annually, and the big data platform of the Sane Observer will take around a fixed cost of 7 billion to become a thalamus of 5 billion daily active users. Our valuation and all those market variables, I would like to leave for you to do the maths. Let it remain the cost of connecting the dots. And as Steve Jobs said, stay hungry, stay foolish.